So the resolution is that Council appoints the Deputy Chief Executive Officer as the Acting Chief Executive Officer from the preamble, delegates the authority to commence the recruitment process for the appointment by a recruitment agency and to establish an appropriate remuneration package. So, can I have a mover? Councillor Plum. Seconder, Councillor Gleeson. Discussion? Being none, put to debate. Those in favour? Carried 7-0. Councillors will have a further discussion around that next week. 3, 2, 1. Can I have somebody please? I'll move that my report be submitted. Seconder, Councillor Peoples. Questions? One meeting that's not there because it came in relatively late. It happened yesterday actually. I attended a meeting with the Deputy Mayor, and Mayor and CEO of Central Highlands Regional Council to further that strategy that I've espoused with you all, and we've confirmed about looking at common interest between Central Highlands, ourselves and Rockhampton Regional Council. There's a bit of outcome yesterday from that meeting that's quite promising, very proactive. It looked like exploring some staff exchange opportunities in certain key areas. What was mentioned yesterday was tourism information centres, but potentially that, of course, could lead to a whole range of other areas. So we were looking at tourism as a key strategy to our joint partnership. And another outcome of that meeting is Central Highlands Regional Council have agreed to offer no objection to our boundary realignment process, which is actually now rather advanced, but we'll be corresponding with them in due course over that. So it's a quite productive hour and a half meeting, which I was a bit late back yesterday lunchtime. We expect very shortly, now that the two of us have met, that we'll add Councillor Strelay to that, and that'll be the three of us meeting to discuss that common ground and hopefully open up the lines of communication between our staff. Any comments or questions about that or anything else in the report? Might somebody move 331 that we receive Stephen's report from Councillor Hanson, Councillor Plum. Seconds. Those in favour? Carried 7-0. Stephen, would you like to lead?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's certainly been another busy month with lots of visitors and proactive things happening. Probably most significant are the externally are advancing the relationships with QUT, which there's a further late matter today, which is the MOU with their Futures Institute. Certainly had very good engagement with a number of developers that are looking to do work within our region, including a last minute visit from one yesterday that the Deputy CEO and I took for a tour for an hour at lunchtime. So there's certainly a lot of positivity around people wanting to come and work with our council and work within our region. So we've spent a lot of time following those things up over the last month, but also a lot of mandatory meetings around the upcoming changes that are happening with the Local Government Act and the further integrity training. The Deputy CEO and I sat through a preliminary session with the Department of Local Government, and you'll individually receive further training on that next week. We've got a couple of other deadlines in my last couple of weeks here, including a possible submission to get further funding to undertake more exclusion fencing within our region that we'll talk about later today. Our ongoing meetings that we have from an executive team level from a COVID response continue to happen. And yeah, we've kind of all been flat out doing the best we can to keep things going.
Thank you, Stephen. Questions? Yeah, that will report.
Can I just ask a question with regards to, I understand that recruitment is a operational matter, but it's also a economical matter for our small towns and what have you. I mean, some of these positions I think are very important to our overall organisation, and Jenny Todd being one that left us a fair while ago with economic and community development. We've also had another couple of staff out of the Aramac office also left. Is it management's intention to replace those staff?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Look, as you know, we've been undertaking a whole range of work in terms of our service delivery and what everyone's doing. A number of the roles that you refer to have been they've been replaced, they've been redeployed, they've been combined with other positions. So I couldn't specifically say that we have replaced the positions that you refer to, but I suppose that's something for the council to consider moving forward based on our financial sustainability, whether we can continue to have those positions and those staff numbers. So, you know, it's certainly, yeah, for the incoming CEO and for the council, it's certainly something that really needs to be looked at closely.
Yep. Well, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to put on record, I think economic development, community development officer, I think it's a pretty important one for our operation, if we can look at that down the track. But we've also had a culture that we try and maintain our workforce numbers in our 5 towns, and I'd like to see if we can possibly do that moving forward too.
Thank you, Councillor Clegg.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, on the same subject, the last month or so we've had mention of asset manager. Are we advertising? Where are we with that position?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that'll be advertised internally in the next 2 to 3 days. Just the process in developing new position descriptions and making sure that everything's done correctly means that, you know, it certainly does take a bit of time to create a new role, make sure that the people that role's reporting to are happy with the position description, and then move to the recruitment process. So we are very close to that one being advertised.
It'll be internal, so it won't appear in a lot of common places.
No, that's right, Mr. Mayor. No, it's just that the report refers to positions that have since closed. So yeah, I just wasn't 100% sure about that. Thank you, Stephen.
Councillor Gleeson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the Carina Road inspection, did you get any positive feedback from the email that was sent out to the persons involved?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe we have. I personally haven't had any response back. The Chief Engineer hasn't had any response back, which is not unusual. You know, that's,
if this is about
No,
Councillor Gleeson, I suppose it's about, you know, we want council to be, you guys to be confident with our processes. So, you know, in that particular case, you know, as the CEO, I wanted you to be able to see what our process is, what we do. While we knew that that matter had been dealt with before, it's very important for you to have confidence in, if you raise a matter, you can see what the process is for us to investigate and then report back to the residents. So, yeah, while we haven't had any response back, I suppose I'm more satisfied that you now know what the process is, and you can see how seriously we take matters and the follow-up that we provide. So,
for the benefit of the other 4 councillors who weren't there, and for the benefit of the record, that meeting definitely wasn't an MPI thing. It was we had an inquiry from. It's actually a very useful point of reference. The engineer may want to even provide this further detail if needed, but it was after the location of property fence with respect to a road easement or actual running surface of a road. And there's a whole range of factors that influence that, and it's different in different areas and different hard points like signs and trees and corners. But effectively, we went out and had a look at the area that the ratepayer was concerned about. The engineer and the CEO discussed a range of operational ways to mitigate where the rill was being left, and effectively identified that where the fence is located is actually okay with respect to its difference. So, you know, there's from time to time going to be legitimate inquiries from landowners, you know, undertaking asset renewal, same as we do, I guess. Sometimes they're repetitive, but where they're different and unique, it was good that a couple of councillors came. Councillor Plum was available. And Councillor Gleeson and I did the run around back on, did the loop on that run and down the road. Usually in quite good condition the whole way around, really.
I really appreciated the assistance and the prompt that we did, that you did. I thought it was really good, and it would be good to just have a little bit of recognition that from the outside that, yeah, been there, done that, thank you. Hopefully it'll turn up one day.
Social engineering at its finest, Councillor Gleeson. Any questions for the CEO? But thank you for your feedback, very good. Okay, nothing further. CID, please. Can I have somebody remove from the lot? Move that we receive the CID. Councillors Gleeson and Plum. Questions? Councillor?
Just one if CEO can explain the condition letter of offer on the sent tourist lookout, what's going on there?
Yep. The Globe precinct.
Yeah.
Mr Mayor, the Barcaldine District Manager is in charge of that project. So I might call on Jenny just to give an update as to that conditional letter and where that project's at briefly.
Good. Can I just ask, sorry, just to the benefit of Councillor MPIs here, has nothing here's gone to tender yet? Right. Sorry, I just want to check. Sorry, Jenny, sorry to interrupt.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the project schedule agreement has been signed by all parties now, and we are discussing with Michael Lavery about the commencement going forward, because the work was placed on hold until we had the agreement signed. So we are now also looking to apply for a variation to commencement date due to the late signing of that agreement. It was signed off not until the 26th of August. And so it will commence from that once. Yeah. They have started work again on getting all the designs in.
Okay.
Mr Mayor, just one other question there. Just refresh my memory, if you would, the budget for us was the planning that we had to do was 42,000 or something.
That was done prior to the submission.
Yeah, but that's the only commitment of council. Still?
Yeah.
And that was part of the delay with the department was about planning who's paying for what was coming out of the grant. So there's quite a bit of negotiation. Jenny had extensive phone calls and emails to get that agreement finalised. So it's just delayed the whole project by probably 3 months at least.
Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Through you, Mr Mayor, item number 3.
Yep.
That's a separation of our water allocation for Barcaldine, is that right?
Yeah, so it allows that the portion of it that's been
150
can be used for purposes other
other
than
than
town.
But that reduces our town allocation.
So you can still use it for town as well.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, which would be our intent whilst we're using the water from the commercial provider and until we realise the town savings. So the amount of water available to town is still the same. It's only if you use that other portion for another project that the amount of water available for town is diminished.
Okay, so Mr Mayor, that means the report we had recently, our allocation for Barcaldine was over their limit anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And was that using that 150? Yes, okay.
Bearing in mind that we're looking to save several hundred megalitres
By
by
the,
reusing our sewage water on community assets. So
okay,
it's not only going to lower that threshold of usage, hopefully it delivers our intent is to deliver the demand side savings. We've got a couple of years for that to be required because, God willing, we've sourced the alternative water that allows the phase ramp up, ramp down to happen. So we'll start with the alternative source of water high initially. Councillors have got MPIs in some of this, but anyway, the water will cross over in usage and we'll be delivering demand side savings at the same time as their alternative source of water drops away.
okay. Now, when you say we've got MPI, you're talking about the town allocation.
The reason for all of this is because of the recreation park day. So I'm fine, it's fine. Where it is where it is. So I don't think I've crossed the line, but it's close. So effectively, to source the water, we had to provide a permanent solution for a water source. Also, in the short term, we had to have a long-term secure. And the water is still available for town use if we want it. We don't have to use it for anywhere else if we want to. The council can choose to do what it likes in 6 months, 3 years, whatever. The water's not like the water's never available for the town. It still remains as use of town, but it can be used for other than town purposes, which is what it currently can't. No extra water.
And technically no less water,
No,
it's just
no less, no
available for
more.
other purposes.
Use it for different things is all that's changed. Any further questions on the CIB? Will somebody move the community care services report 3.3.3? Councillor Plum, seconded Councillor Hanson. All those in favour? Carried, 7-0. Stephen, anything you'd like us to know before we go to questions?
Yeah, just you'll note that in the report it obviously says that we've just started a year, so the trends, not really are available yet. I think after the first quarter we'll have a better feel. I know if you look at the NDIS section, there has been a decline in the number of clients, a small decline. That's due to a number of reasons. Obviously, NDIS is a commercial division that has commercial operators operating in that space, so that people have a choice who they go with. So I suppose there's always going to be a churn rate of people coming and people going. Some of those reasons, are various things. Some are obviously private that, we can't talk about because of the circumstances, but it's something that we're certainly watching. And I think, our peak of clients at 61 in May and June was an exceptional effort, given it was a start-up business unit a couple of years ago. I think more importantly are the direct assist clients. So they're the ones that have the extremely large packages that we provide direct assistance for. So,
Essentially, it's our employment arm.
that's right. So if those numbers were drastically going down, is where our major concern would be. I suppose I flag the other people that we just do their care packages and pay their accounts. It's reasonable to expect that they will fluctuate up and down.
Any questions on any part of the community care services report?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and it might be a glitch of the early reporting, but the Home Assist Secure, our year-to-date percentage is 545%. Is that an error, or is that a glitch? Have we got an early payment for something, or?
We do receive all our money in advance.
In advance, okay.
So it's 6 monthly. We receive the money in July for the 6 months to December, and then January for 6 months to June.
Okay.
So that would create an anomaly.
Yeah.
The variances, but. Why that's so high.
Other questions? I have somebody move the economic development report, please, 334. Councillor Plum, Councillor Gleeson, seconds. Those in favour? Carried. 7-0.
Mr Mayor, there's a number of things in here that I suppose bring you up to date, and also we've got the Invest Barcaldine Region website is a separate resolution of council today because we're ready to activate that. I think councillors should be fairly aware of everything that's in here. Not aware there's any new projects, so probably just to note again, one of the things we budgeted for this year is to produce some promotional videos for our region. So we actually have that crew is on site all of this week. So they've done Alpha, Jericho. Today they're in Barcaldine. Tomorrow they're going to Aramac and then to Muttaburra. So that'll really bring to life not only our Invest Barcaldine region, but some of our strategies around encouraging people to come and live and work in our region. So we want to be able to show off, if people are applying for jobs, click here and actually watch a video of what there is to do and see when you come and live out here. So I suppose to Councillor Arthur's had, a number of questions around where we're marketing our jobs. This is really the next step in being able to really sell our region as part of the recruitment process.
Okay, we'll discuss the Invest Barcaldine resolution. Is there anything else in the economic development report councillors would like to raise? Question? Might somebody move to the strategic facilities planning report 335 received. Councillor Peoples. Councillor, one. Those in favour? Okay. Councillors, I briefly mentioned to you that I had asked the CEO to identify shortfalls in infrastructure provisions in our community spaces. This is what this report is. Happy to discuss this all day long. There'll be no, obviously, outcomes from this require budgetary decisions, so this is an advance budget preparation document for 21-22. Do either Stephen or the DMs wish to add to this before I ask for comment from councillors?
Mr Mayor, it's probably appropriate for the DMs. They're the ones that have consulted in their community and reviewed the facilities. So
Paula, can I start with you? Is there anything you'd like to add that sort of speaks for itself? Or?
No, I think the report speaks for itself. We all got together and had a discussion, so that prompted things that we hadn't thought about. So most of it, we captured most of it.
Very good. Damien?
Yeah, no, it pretty well speaks for itself, the whole report. I think the budget item that we discussed, so I think that's one of the things to be looking forward to, as in a portable toilet facility that can be used across the region.
Yeah, with Damien and Paul, the same thing. Rather than doing work to the facilities, if you had something that was portable, because we don't have, for the outlay of monies, you don't have enough large events to go modifying all our buildings and facilities to suit the needs. And I think anything in a portable way would be ideal. We've seen it done in the past.
Yeah, I must admit it was an angle that I hadn't considered when I read that report. If we go to and some of that stuff when it was first invented was pretty low quality and you'd be concerned about its longevity. The same, if you were to secure appropriate funding, there's some quite good stuff available now that's transportable, especially if it's being used 6 or 7 times a year, not 40 or 50 times a year. So commend the officers for the detail of the analysis and thank them for their very good, for their genuinely collaborative and regional thinking around the budget considerations. Councillor Peebles.
Mr Mayor, I just want to concur because I think thinking about our halls, Alpha, Jericho, Aramac, Munnabara, and probably here too, that, you know, when we do have a function in any of our halls, that's an area where we're going to struggle. But to have, and I don't know where we put it, but to come up with an idea about portable that we can pull around our communities, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, certainly wasn't something that I expected that we were going to rush out and do this year when I had a look at this, but we just need to see where the landscape settles on what the requirements may be for events, you know.
I think could possibly, Mr Mayor, possibly be government funding come out for this type of thing because of COVID. They're the type of equipment that we could look to buy, funding become available.
And I can think of numerous events that we'd have across our council area that, you know, would probably use something like this instead of getting portaloos and all that sort of stuff in for their functions.
Yeah, and catering stuff. So councillors, just given that sometimes it's good to be proactive, Stephen, would it be possible that we do some early works to look at the style of these things? And I know that someone's already done that because somewhere else on this, which I can't find, but there's attached photos of products. Can we just put a bit together on these 3 dot points what some options may be, so that if something is announced, well, we're not just a mad scramble, and then if nothing is, well, we can look at it as part of our budget planning in February.
Definitely.
Right. Councillors, any other questions for this report?
Oh, just to add to that, Mr Mayor, it's a potential revenue source for local councils that are relatively close to Park Auburn and they have larger events.
Mm.
It doesn't necessarily just be confined to our council.
Well, that's right. You think of things like the big red catering truck, don't you? You know, I mean, obviously that's a extremely expensive thing. The DCQ had that for a couple of years, and now it's Education Queensland owned, don't they? Yeah. So yeah, there's possibilities there. Okay. 336. Can somebody move that, please? Councillor Peebles, second Councillor Arthur. Welcome to the board, Councillor Arthur. Those in favour? Carried. Stephen?
Oh, Mr Mayor, I suppose in light of the training that we've just done over the last couple of days, I think there's information about impacting councils and council's financial position. It's very good for councillors to have access to this type of information to, you know, when they're analysing the performance of our council, to know, you know, how other councils are performing and how COVID's affecting other councils and so on. So I entered into the first part of this data review and the Deputy CEO provided the information. So what you've received is the initial report. There's a further data collection happening in September that I would encourage council to continue to be part of, so that we can then share in the outcomes and the information that comes from the Department of Local Government and LGAQ.
Questions, comments, observations? Further noting, more reports to read. Bear in mind that information from this style of report is what will guide future works for Queensland. Effectively, Brett, Stephen, would you agree? I mean, this, how they break it up.
Yes, Mr Mayor, it's high level information that will be provided to government, so that the government provides us with appropriate funding.
Not actionable so much for us as it is, you know, deep understanding of where we fit into the whole local government picture. Okay, can I have somebody move that we receive 337, the Wild Dog and Pest Management Committee Assistance Request? Councillor Gleeson moved and Hanson seconds. Then,
Mr Mayor, so a number of weeks ago, we were made aware that there was a federal government program released called Established Pest Animal and Weed Management Pipeline Program, Advancing Pest Animal and Weed Control Solutions Competitive Grant Round, which effectively it's similar to the scheme we were successful with last year, which was the Combating Pests and Weeds that we got $400,000 from. So the Mayor and I engaged with the chair of our Barcaldine Wild Dog Advisory Committee to seek feedback and have asked that he goes out to the members of that group to engage with them to find out, one, if we should put an application in, two, if council was to put an application in, how could the money be best used, making sure that it complies with the guidelines set out. So at this stage, we haven't got that feedback from the wider group. We certainly have had feedback from the chair, who is very keen for council to put in a submission. And yeah, I think the minimum amount that we can apply for is around about $300,000. So it's a pool of about 12 million for all of Australia though. So, I probably don't see much sense in putting in an application for a huge amount because they obviously want the money spread far and wide. And there's, quite a bit of work that will have to happen before the 25th of September if we are to put in a submission. The Mayor might like to talk about the discussions and commitments that he made to the Wild Dog Committee about making sure that we consult with them and what some of their initial thoughts might be about how the money could be used.
yeah, so I flagged with them that when you look and analyse a map of areas that are fenced behind cluster fences, there's a substantial land bridge being built, and it's got a couple of small gaps, and they're predominantly bounded by state-owned land or by council-controlled reserves, and the two ones that come out of commons or a little bit of stock ground. And I flagged that for not a lot of fencing, a linear fence to connect a few clusters up where it goes past Crown land or common could have a significant benefit for the overall effect of stopping dogs moving east-west. And even allowing for dogs that are outside the fence to be sort of pigeonholed a little bit, like they might have a U shape. So I think that another reason why council puts it in, it may be viewed favourably if we identify a few of those areas and put in for my stab in the dark was between 250 and 300,000. Is that the figure I quoted?
Yeah, so 300 is the minimum.
300, sorry, yeah. So I think if we apply for the minimum, we're in an area that's targeted for this funding. So even though it is to cover the whole of Australia, there certainly will be a recognition of the Central West. I don't want to collaborate. I don't think it's advantageous for our council area to attempt to collaborate because recent history has showed that other councils have given a commitment and then gone away and done something completely different. So I think we just go it alone. And if council officers, the problem is we've got how many days to do this?
27th, 25th.
So we need to move very quickly with whatever elements of our advisory committee can provide advice on those areas, and we move to fence them. That's my thought. It would be shared by the chair of that committee, but I know one of the problems these advisory committees have when they're made up of business people that are affected by the weather is very hard to get them together. I'm very cognizant of that. I feel sorry for asking them to meet, and they're doing it voluntarily, but if we can get some idea on a map where these areas should go and that committee goes that way, then alternatives to that, if you're considering what else we could do, we could have put together a mini rapid scheme and try for people who either aren't fencing for sheep or want to do individual properties, have access to it on the same pro rata payment structure that the wild dog cluster fencing is done through rapid. See, things that are a condition for the rapid funding is you must have a commitment to return a sheep, and you've got to be you've got to be 2 or more properties. There are people around who either can't get consensus with neighbours or who don't intend to go back to sheep, but see benefit in this fencing. So that is an option. I view that as complicated, to be fair, and probably low return regional. Great return for an individual property. I think this is a truly regional way to do it, in that we can benefit potentially the transfer of pests in a significant way. When you look at that map, for those 2 councillors on that committee, it's a big block right through here. It's very hard to find an area that's out of it, and if you fence that, you could tidy it up.
Mr Mayor, through you, I think great idea to fill those gaps and have that barrier right along to stop the east-west movement. The only other thing I'd comment on, last time we chased this, we've chased it once before and got 400,000, didn't we?
That's right. And that got tacked on to the bottom for those people who had eligible rapid clusters, but the money ran out. Our 400 went into them, and that actually tidied up the whole then of everybody who had an eligible program was in our council area received funding. If they missed out on the rapid, they got ours.
Yeah. Oh, and the only other thing I think about, Mr Mayor, is maybe bumping it up to 400,000 or a bit more than what we've got there again. That's what I do. But I agree with everything else you've said.
Always keen to ask for more money. My only concern is 300,000 does get you a bit of cluster fence, like it does get you a bit of, of that material done. With the areas we're talking aren't massively long, a few kilometres.
These areas we're doing, but because they are reserves and commons and what have you, will we be doing them ourselves?
I don't know what the terms and conditions of this grant, we may have to put it to contract.
But we would be
We might not be able to do the labour.
Yeah, but we'd be paying for it.
Oh, definitely, yeah, we'd be facilitating the project, so money comes to us and we call a tender to construct it, or if we can do it ourselves, we do
Whereas
it.
the previous one, we paid the landholders.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But all I'm saying is that, if we put it out to fences to supply and construct, again, I'd go for a bit more money.
Yeah, councillors, I'm in your hand, 300 is a figure, 400 is not hard to go for, it's consistent. Councillor Peoples is right, it's consistent with our last. It does have to go to tender. Salary for staff is not an eligible cost, so. So yeah, 400 is consistent with our application from last time. I'm happy with whatever figure. I just wouldn't want to see it get too big, or it's too easy for the government to say that we're being greedy and not give it to it. So $1 million, I think, is getting, or even $500,000 to be half a step too far. We've got a bit of negative experience with being too ambitious with our federal government grant processes in the last 12 months. Really like to not give them an excuse to not give us any more money.
Mr Mayor, can we put 2 submissions in, one to join the missing links up and one for missing links, and so one for $300,000 and one for $400,000 with separable terms?
Generally, the government will only allow you to put one in.
Each entity would be considered as a total,
But really, until we know what the length of the fencing is, we don't know how much money we actually need.
Now, at the brief meeting I had with Paul, that 300,000 to 400,000 is going to probably tick off a couple of the hot button issues. One just out here, another one down here, one at Aramac.
At Aramac, yeah.
Those are the 3 key areas that were identified.
Mr Mayor, if we fence all those missing gaps and have some left over, we just give that money back. If we have money left over after we fence the links, you don't have to give the money back. So
We won't have any.
Yes, we do have to give it back, but
we wouldn't have any left.
I'm
I'm just thinking that as long, we need to cover, it'd be better to have leftover money and have to give it back than to not have enough, that's all.
Oh, yeah. The thing about this sort of fencing is the costs of it are now extremely well, the cost to supply and install it is extremely well known. Like there's 4 people in this room that could quote it to the nearest dollar what it would cost us. I'm not meaning that on an NPI basis, this would be paid to do it, so, or we do it. So, our costings on this will be pretty accurate. And you're right, consistent with all our other budgetary considerations, we don't want to go over budget on this. I don't want to be paying for it out of council revenue.
Councillor Mayor, fencing, and it's got pest and weed. So if there is if there was a handful of dollars left over, well, there's always prickly acacia and always something to.
Not automatically given that they'd approve that. So you apply for what it is, and then you would have to, if it was substantially different. So what I'm thinking is, if you applied for, say, 3 portions of fence and you did that for 350,000, you could apply to do a 4th portion of the same style of project and they would probably grant it. But if you went to transfer from fencing to chemical control, they're probably going to say that's a change of the scope of your submission and knock it back. Would you agree, Brett?
Yeah, we, in the last round, we did apply for pests and weeds, and they knocked back the weeds component and only paid us for the pest animal component.
Makes you smile, that we knock back the weeds, stop everything running down to the Lake Eyre Basin.
Well, yeah, possibly. I mean, one thing I can say to the federal government's credit here is they did deliver $5 million for prickly acacia, which is predominantly our region. So if they're trying to spread weed control around, they know, well, through other programs, they've funded weed control, a form of weed control for the Barcaldine Council area, whereas the pest animal they probably view as a bigger impact. So given that they've got weed issues, say, on the Darling Downs or in Malanda so the state were the ones that walked away from weed control in this region, not the feds.
Mr. Mayor, through the, if we did apply for the 400,000 and we use 300,000 to fill the gaps, if we're applying for fencing, we can go back to what we did last time with an expression of interest for those that
would be somewhat trickier. I wouldn't assume that would happen. Because what we're going to put in the scope of this, if you go this way, is that we're looking to construct linear fencing to join up the gaps, and then if we go back to a wholly enclosed thing, it's a different.
You wouldn't put both in?
Well, I'm not sure as to the lengths or the cost. Like, don't forget, this stuff costs you between $10,000 and $15,000 a kilometre to do. And some of the areas that are being earmarked across creeks, so that costs you between $40,000 and $50,000 a kilometre to do. Like, it's expensive stuff. You won't get many Ks for 400,000. If the council's intent is to apply for both, this is the resolution to do it.
The only reason I'd apply for both is that if we did have some surplus, that gives you an opportunity to spend what's left, that's all. And like you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know what the gaps are. How long?
Mr. Mayor, we need to tell the government in advance how we're going to spend the money. When we apply, we have to say it's for X, Y, Z. So if we don't have those clusters already, we don't have that information, it's too late. It may be available, I don't know.
I think what we do in the project in terms of it is we identify all of the gaps we want to do, we cost them, and then we put them in as category A and B. We go, these are the ones that we think we can get done with the grant. If they come in under budget, we would like to progress and finish the category B gaps off.
Well, Mr. Mayor, the map, as you say, is the most powerful. Yeah, once you've got the map and you can draw the lines, it's very powerful.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So, Brett, you're saying that we need to have that data. So, can we make the motion just that when it's measured, when the distance of the fence is known and measured and costed, that will be what we apply for? Like, can we leave that open-ended, that motion?
Yeah, so we can remove the dollar amount at the end.
And say the cost, for the costed amount of the project.
It could be $1 million. I don't want to apply for $1 million because we will not get
Up to a limit of 400.
That sounds okay.
Whatever it, so.
Go up to 400,000. I think because we got 400 last time, we'd be pretty safe in applying for that amount again. Once you went over that, it might be problematic.
I agree. for up to 400,000 as well here in councillor Rogers'. No, it's not, sorry, I'm already done. Wasted, are you happy with that amendment? Councillor Hanson, are you happy with that amendment? Any further discussion? Put it to the vote, those in favour? 7-0. Investment. Sorry.
No, it's just now.
Do it. 338 Invest Barcaldine Region website. Possibly, I should just hold because the resolution calls for a support here, so I'll just hold for discussion first.
Could you just put it up on the screen? Would you go to the internet and type in investbarcaldineregion.com.au? I'm sorry, I'll let you do it.
No, you're right.
So councillors, we've spoken quite a bit about our strategy that we've had to grow economic development. This is one of the next steps, which is the Invest Barcaldine Region website. So the idea of this site is that anyone who's interested in coming to our region, and I can tell you that like in the last 6 months, we've had more interest than ever of people wanting to come and do, developments and industry and so on in our region. The number one thing they want, like they Google Barcaldine and there's no one site that gives them the right information. So we've created this site to try and show off what our strategies are as a council and what our projects are that are underway. So if you just click on opportunities.
Thank you. You just click on the whole thing first.
Yeah, just click on that. And then scroll down. Keep going. Keep going. So each individual project, we're now developing a tile that they can then click on. So if you just go down a little bit further. So if it's Barkey Red or if it's the Sculpture Trail or the Muttaburrasaurus Interpretation Centre, cluster fencing, they can then get a lot more detailed information about our region to pre-educate them about what's going on and see how proactive we are. So I suppose it's more about developing a resource that people can self-help and actually see what's happening in our region. So this has been under development for the last 6 months, so we're ready for it to go live in that, like if you know the website, you can put it in and go straight to it. At the moment, it's not coming up in any search engines. Once it goes live, hopefully as soon as people start to Google investment Barcaldine or real estate Barcaldine, this site will be the first thing that pops up.
Well, we just need to buy on Google the word Barcaldine and this will be it. So part of the strategy of this is not only for that, but it is to attract investment in business and real estate. And if they can see the scope, so projects that could get added to this, for example, the Evolution Lot construction in Aramac and the CHSP building in Alpha, they're two pretty big ticket for a regional council who have $500,000 projects going at the same time. Things like that could be in here if we were looking for investment partners down the track.
So, yeah, Mr. Mayor, so really it's about getting council's endorsement that we can go live with this as ticking off another project we've been working on to develop the region.
Yeah, we didn't want a clunky council website that's full of policies and procedures and how to contact it. This is a streamlined promotion for our region.
Mr. Mayor, can I just, I don't know if you want to go down this path, but can I just make one other comment here about maybe tourism and have another, a menu bar up at the top there, just have something for tourism, because if they're going to hit Barcaldine and this comes up, I don't think it'd be too bad to show all the different, just tourists where they might be able to go. Lake Dunn, Muttaburrasaurus Information Centre.
So if you just go back to opportunities and go to the tourism tab.
Oh, right in the bottom, okay, yep.
And there's, but I take your point, it can be further. This has only got some of the projects. Keep going down, Helen. Yeah. And we're probably just looking at it now, if you keep on going down, we probably need clearer titles about the projects. It actually needs to say Barkey Red, Barcaldine Recreation Park, Muttaburra Interpretation Centre. It's not like, yeah, you know, just go up a little bit. Yeah, to there.
Thompson River, you know, right along the river there at Muttaburra. I think we could expand just a bit more around that tourism. Yeah, but other than that, I think it looks great.
Can we put our tourism, our VICs in there?
Sorry, councillor Plum.
Sorry, our VICs, should we have their information centres in there so they're a contact?
It's probably, well,
Yeah.
you want to discuss strategy on?
Yeah, so the strategy of this is more about like people coming to invest in the region as opposed, like our tourism site should be more, a totally different sort of look.
Commercial
and fit.
features, yeah.
Yeah, this is aimed purely at people who are looking to come and undertake, you know, open a new business or come and buy some land and develop something or
Just come and live.
or come and live.
So the first thing you do when you go to meet with these developers is if you want to pitch something to them, is they just Google buckle. Like literally, that is what they do. They just type in there, what's a buck? And it's really hard. This just shows them a bit about the fact that it's expansion type, pro industry. Yes, it's got tourism elements. Yes, it's got business elements. Yes, it's got lifestyle elements. You know, it shows a profile. It's like a Wikipedia profile of what this region does. Rather than a how-to, if that makes sense. That would be a Visit Barcaldine Region website, you know. And so the beauty of this is relatively low cost.
Through you, Mr Mayor, if, and hopefully in the future we do have a Visit Barcaldine site, we can just have a square there that says, and a link to it.
Each of the 5 VLCs, yeah. So I think we're already foreshadowing the next one of these. You know, this is Invest Barcaldine, the next one, and you have this Visit Barcaldine.
So after the production crew's been here this week, there'll now be videos. As you click on Barkey Red, there'll be a video about Barkey Red. And same as hopefully all of the other things that are on there. So this is the stake in the ground to get it started. Now it's how does it evolve?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So in saying Visit Barcaldine, we could have a tab where we've got all our sporting bodies on there.
Yeah, all the events they run, yeah. All the cultural activities that are run as well.
Can we get a bit of shot of the globe? I looked at that and thought, where's that old cottage? Where's that?
That's an artist's impression, I think you'll find.
Just click on that one, Haley, and see where it goes to.
That's the
The
master
names come
plan.
up as you hover over it.
So if you scroll up a bit, you'll see the one that is the photo for the new, I think. No, that must be in another tab.
One of the previews.
There. Oh, that's only an artist's impression too. All right, where are we at? We're going to approve and endorse that we actively promote this?
Mr Mayor, the 8,000 unbudgeted, is that to come out of our economic development future opportunities?
That's a source for it, yeah. Now there's 180 there that hasn't been allocated, and this is the sort of thing that can be helped.
Through you, Mr Mayor, after just listening to what you're saying about the website, I feel like I shouldn't be voting on this.
No.
I'm part of tourism, so like I feel like I might have an MPI in it, so maybe I should leave the room.
No, I can't offer you advice if you want to declare an MPI councillor. Sorry.
Just from like what Steve said, that each of those things was going to be actively promoted.
Councillor, we'll lose a quorum because I'm involved in agriculture. Councillor, this is not specifically, so this is not giving you an opportunity greater than, I can't offer advice, but you're not receiving a benefit greater than that of any other member of the community because this is promoting the whole lot of us. Whereas if I've got an MPI in agriculture, MPI in heavy industry, I don't know about this one, if you're saying tourism, agriculture, we two of them left, Mac, one.
Councillor Plum mentioned sporting bodies were all.
Then the CEO always gets all.
treasurer.
So we're not giving you a benefit, we're not promoting something to the exclusivity that will direct money your way that it wouldn't to anyone else regionally. In fact, you could suggest that by this resolution going forward, we're enhancing the opportunity of any potential competitor to you becoming established.
Yeah.
Which would just, I can't offer advice, I've just done it 3 times.
Withdraw that
Right, thank you.
question.
This will make for interesting viewing for those who watch it later. Moved Councillor Plum, seconded Councillor Gleeson. Those in favour? Carried 7-0. Well done. Local Government Association of Queensland 124th Annual Conference. Now, there's a resolution there's got 2 of us in it because we are going. I would absolutely love to have more than the 2 of us go though. So is anyone else keen to go to the LGAQ conference?
When is the date again, sorry?
It's from the 19th to the 21st of October.
Yeah, I'd be interested in going, Sean, Mr Mayor.
Whereas Gary, Councillor Peoples.
I've been to several, so some of the new councils would like to have a look on.
The opportunity to truly fit into the local government landscape, understand that our challenges are small compared to others and bigger compared to others. It'll be an interesting conference, it always is. Look,
I'd be interested in going.
sorry.
Sorry, Mayor, we just have to be careful. There's a limit on the numbers.
What there is a limit of 5. I was about to get to that if we exceeded it. There's a limit of 5, but it won't. It will be opened up because not all councils are going to send 5. So those councils who want to have more go, we just wait list, and then when that nods close, we'll get all the rest in. So, you're interested, Councillor Arthur?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Gleeson's interested. Councillor Peoples is interested. One's not. Rogers.
I'll do this.
Sorry,
I won't,
you won't go. You'll stay home and row the boat here.
yes.
Someone has to, Mr Mayor.
Oh, and Buckhorn Regional Council is actually a showcase presenter. I will be presenting at that conference on our council's involvement in Hedyaker and the lobbying to get that funded by the state, which has been successful. So, yeah, it'd be nice to have a few there to fly the flag and throw stones at me halfway through it. So there's 6 of us listed there. No, that's 5, sorry.
I'm still,
You,
I'd have to just wait and see what's happening.
right, that's fine. So councillors Arthur, Gleeson, Peoples and myself, that's the 5. Brilliant. Hayley will organise accommodation and travel for you, or I've already done mine.
Do you want me to add as councillor Hanson as a maybe? Then
Yeah, well, I think that'd be good. Because you'll be the 6th one anyway, you may not get a gig.
Depending on contracts and lots of stuff. So just trying to do things go.
And allocates the voting right to obviously Nick, and who's a definite out of the 3 of you who nothing will change whether you go or not.
No game, so that's.
Are you 100% locked in?
Well, I just checked my calendar, that week is blank, other than Leo Shirt Day on Friday.
So the Mayor and Councillor. Can I somebody move that resolution, please? Deleting attending delegates. Sorry. Elected officials normally use it. That was there if there was only 2 of us going. That's what, in years where there's only 2 people go, so that the vote gets going, used, the CEO or whatever staff's going to use it. So
It's hard work.
difficult.
And
What's really confusing is when if it's an elected official, 2 elected officials that go, well, I went one way on a vote once and the former mayor went the other way. So it's interesting.
And I was at the conference and I think I had to paddle for a while voting anyway, so
Yes, yeah.
sometimes you share it around. Hence is
Okay. Moved Councillor Lund. Seconded councillor Hanson. Those in favour? Carried. Right. I would suspect that we will hear more about that yet. At event, depending on the COVID status of the Gold Coast. IQ wrap 3310.
Is there, through you, Mr Mayor, is there any issues that you want to discuss, or we'll just go ahead and move this?
I'm quite comfortable with this. It's time to rejig it. It has done its job. It needs revitalising. We would stand to benefit. We don't need to pay exorbitantly, and it keeps us a seat at the table. This body, despite disparaging comments from some, is fast becoming the go-to vehicle for the federal government to allocate funding. We need to be a part of it. Separate to this, as I asked the CEO, in line with council policies, to approve a $300 marketing fee to promote this during the upcoming state election. So that's a separate fee we will have already paid. This $7,500, I think you'll find, is probably budgeted. No, it comes from a regional affiliation, so it's in the budget anyway.
Mr Mayor,
Councillor Peoples.
Mr Mayor, I think it's, I think we've just got to have a seat at the table. I think it's detrimental to, you know, road funding and what have you for us if we don't have a seat at the table.
I'm going to push for more than a seat at the table. I'm going to push to be actively involved in the executive of it. I know councillors Britton and McNamara from their respective councils play a big role in this, and I'm very keen to offside with them and help them. I think the Central West is a big cog in the wheel of North, South, East, West freight movement, so we need to have a seat at the table.
I totally agree, and if you can get a more senior role on the executive or something, I agree with that too.
Oh, I'm not after a title, I'm just after being there when they have their meetings to help them, you know, just to do the work with them.
Totally agree.
Councillor Peoples has moved, seconded councillor Hanson. Those in favour? Carried, 7-0. 3311, High Court Aged Care Facility. The Deputy CEO is just going to leave the meeting for this, and the record reflect that the Deputy CEO has left the meeting as we commence the discussion on this, please. Right. Steve.
Mr Mayor, just to provide a bit of background, so you'll see a proposal provided by the Community Care Regional Coordinator around that business unit of council moving from their current location, which is here in Ash Street. His proposal is that they move to the new Barcaldine Aged Care Facility at the back end of town. Obviously it's more of an operational matter, but my concern around making a decision like this is that it affects a large proportion of the community. So I think it's only right and fair that it's brought to council for consideration. For the councillors that were in attendance, we heard very loud and clear from the Barcaldine 60 and Better group that they do not want to leave their current facility. So that sort of triggered my heightened awareness of that it's going to be a very topical decision, but it's certainly one that we've got to do the right research. I believe everything that the Community Care Coordinators put in the report here. What I'd like to do in the next couple of weeks is to do some further research and a bit more community consultation around how that may affect participants and customers of community care, as well as the wider community, if they were to go ahead and move to the new Barcaldine Aged Care Facility. There's certainly some synergies there. It makes sense for them to be all co-located. It's a new facility. There's a lot of things in alignment, but there's also been a couple of comments around, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind at the back part of town. And so I just think we have to put a bit more time and community engagement into who's affected, how are they affected, for you as a council to make a decision. Is that the right move for our community care division?
Budget implications are 0, is that correct?
Correct. So there's no, the the rent that's being paid at the moment is virtually the same as what the rent would be paid in the current facility. If there is any difference, it doesn't really come into it because it's fully recoverable through the programs. So there's no direct cost to council.
Councillor?
There was an additional rental for the activity hall in excess of the current rent, I understand. Which
It's fully
may well be
recoverable.
recoverable. But if it doesn't eventuate a return and just eats into the profitability of that unit, it is a cost.
Mr. Mayor, sorry, Dick.
No, you're right. Also, it's difficult to know what's going to be in the full report, but I think we need to have a look at other areas and spaces that we currently own for their suitability.
And, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, you know, this is a forum to obviously, I'm happy to take direction on what you'd like to see, you know, contained in the report that comes back to council. So I'll make a note of that.
And it's probably a difficult metrics to obtain, but the commercial value of our current lease and the new lease compared to, in the last couple of months, we've rented out council space for considerably less than what we pay. And they may not be suitable, but from a commercial point of view, we've rented to council areas for considerably less than what we currently pay now and what we intend to pay in future. And I'm not sure what the intention of the old Bill Ritchie room is, but there's a room there that is currently unused, from my understanding. And it is within the council complex, basically. There may be an item used for it in future. It may not be suitable for these requirements, but I think there are considerations that need to be looked at.
Just notwithstanding that, actually, Councillor Keith, you have one first, sorry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just sort of listening to the CEO's comments there, I totally agree that we need to prepare a full report to come back to council for consideration. And, you know, I think the consultation with community and our seniors, I think that's something that's very important and we should do.
Just on the CEO to develop the report, the CEO changes on Friday, so Stephen will still continue to develop this because just for the complete benefit of transparency, the Walsh family own the building where we're currently renting. So I don't even know if I don't think Brett has any direct. I don't know, and it's irrelevant. But for complete transparency, that's why he's out of the room. So he would remain completely detached from recommendations around this decision as we move forward to October. So Stephen will move to this and work over the next couple of weeks, and I'll assist with that. Just to further the discussion, and I'm not of a mind either way to look at it. Points that Councillor Arthur makes is quite relevant. Another issue that can't be avoided is in the discussion is Blackwater and Aged Care have got a significant debt to Economic Development Queensland as a result of the way funding was moved to ensure construction, to ensure the receipt of a federal government grant. They commenced repaying that, and then they've been very limited in their fundraising opportunities. I successfully brokered a significant delay in the recommencement of their loan repayment for them. Council underwrit that loan when it happened, or provided a guarantee, I should say. I'm not foreshadowing that we're responsible for that debt, but we are actually their guarantor. The state have foreshadowed that they would sell the facilities to recover the debt rather than call on council to match it, which is almost daring us to, well, if you don't pay. So it's not as cloak and dagger as that, but if they don't make their repayment schedules, which Barclaw and Aged Care intends to do, but they're struggling, something like this, $340 a week as a resident tenant does provide them with an alternative revenue stream which minimises our need to get involved any further in that guarantor role if we could, without affecting council services and all council financial resources, deliver it. Then there's a mutual beneficial arrangement there in terms of when you look at what we did yesterday, risk, but utilisation of assets. If we've got other things that are better off, if the money, the money in and out in a circular arrangement is of no benefit to council, and if there is existing council assets that can be used, well, then actually could be financially beneficial to council to rent that space. So I appreciate both sides of this. I would also appreciate the more time, really. I'm not sure that the report will guide me. I just need a bit more time to consider this. I think that it's a substantial step. It is a new building. It is an exciting opportunity, but we do need to look at it more broadly. Councillor Beattie.
Mr Mayor, I'm happy to move the recommendation.
You just saw smart go turn up, didn't you? Moved Councillor Peebles, seconded Councillor Plum. Those in favour. Sorry, does anyone else want to discuss the resolution?
Just to add, through you, Mr Mayor, I agree that aged care is a fine initiative, and as Stephen said, there are some synergies with the services there.
Yeah. Look, it's a genuinely, it's a big call for council. This is one of those, this is not a financial call, this is not a budgetary consideration really, although we did just touch on that. This is a big social impact call. These are one of these things that, can really redefine positively or negatively where we go. So, and where our community moulds itself around its future social engagement. So it's a big call, I get that. Those in favour? Carried, 7-0. The time being 10 AM on the dot. We will break for morning meeting. Welcome, Sergeant.